Welcome back to the Daily Nugget. Daily property insights, one topic, 20 minutes or less, 7 days a week. Myself, Lotze, and joined by property investor and cash flow specialist, Jono Frankle. And Jono, a question for you today, property manager. With a property manager, what should I look for when I wanted to hire one to take on one of my rental properties or my whole portfolio?
All right, so such a key power team member when it comes to your property manager. You know, this person is going to be ensuring that you have the right tenants in your property. They're going to be ensuring that the tenants are paying you. They're also going to be ensuring that you get market rent. They're the ones that are looking after your asset that's creating income. So very, very important power team member. I think some of the key elements that you want to look for when establishing a property manager is, first of all, how many properties are they managing? There's probably a limit that you'd want to work to. You wouldn't want to have someone who has hundreds of properties on their books and they're not able to ensure that they're giving your property the maximum amount of attention. But also you want to not have somebody at the other end that probably manages one property and very new. So you want some experience behind them. You can generally find this out by, doing a bit of an interview. We've actually interviewed many a property manager over our time and ensuring they're the right person for the job. As well as that, you want to ensure that how the fee structures are working with the property manager. Different property management companies will work differently. There's generally going to be a percentage that is covered off according to how much the rent is. So a 10%, for example, in some of the regional towns, some of the main centres, you may get down 6, 7, 8%. That there is going to be your management fee. But then are they charging additional on top of that? Some management companies will charge you for, if there is work being done, they'll add on a percentage associated to that. They will also charge you for inspections as well. So it's essential to understand the whole fee structure of your property manager, as well as that the placement. How much is it costing for them to place new tenants into your property? So it's really important when you assess different property managers that ideally that you're going to someone who has a lot of experience. They're not managing too many properties. There's good reviews about them, potentially been recommended by someone who you're working alongside to make sure that you are getting the right person to work alongside.
That's so true. I've had a couple of points around my property management experience, and I had one property manager. I had one of my properties, a person out of the blue, a property manager in the local area, found my name, obviously through their database, found me on social media, contacted me directly to tell me of some challenges the rest of the street was having with some of my tenants, and some of the complaints and so forth, and thought they should bring it towards me because I wasn't getting this information through my current management, which is quite interesting to know. So let's just say my current management is no longer. The person that reached out to me on social media to inform me of these and the rest of it has taken on the management of this property because they went outside their normal area to actually reach out to an owner and say, hey, by the way, are you aware of this? And that was a massive tick box for me around the property manager. Also, one point you mentioned about the costs as well. Yeah, in my experience, there's always been sort of a cost point of it, 7%, and then there's or additional cost if we're doing renovations, we're doing inspections, and then there's a flat cost of sort of, let's say, a 10% and no increases. I found from my experience, from my portfolio, I've always gone on a flat, solid cost. Reason being why I've made that decision is, in a lot of the properties, there's always an issue, there's always a repair, there's always a maintenance. And if I'm taking the lower cost up front, they charge on all those fixes and renovations, and it actually works out more than the flat cost at the end of the year. And that's where I sort of gone with my property management on that flat cost across the board.
Yeah, I mean, very valid point there. And the other thing to consider is that as you grow your portfolio, you're not going to be investing in areas that you can necessarily pop down to. My portfolio is all throughout New Zealand, and I'm not, some of the properties I haven't even seen them, but you're relying on these people to look after the asset. If a toilet breaks, for example, I don't need to know about it. I just need to, make sure that the tenants, the property managers are looking after it. Now, with property managers and maintenance, there's generally going to be a certain amount of money that you'll say, okay, anything up to $500, handle it. Let me know. Anything up to $1,000, depending on how hands-on you are. But at the end of the day, you want to ensure that the people that are managing your asset are getting the right tenants in, like you just found out with your place there. But also keeping up the maintenance, keeping up the inspections, because if they're dropping the ball on inspections and there is an issue, potentially you need an insurance claim, that can really hurt you. So it's important as well that your power team members are talking we often see that property managers are having good conversations with the insurance brokers to make sure the right cover's in place and make sure that it all relates. So get your power team working together, but property manager, massively important power team member.
Yeah. That's so true. And there was one more point that you dropped in there, which I think is really good about new investors and stuff, and to reduce your time, is making a rule with your property manager about how much money are they allowed to spend without having to give you a phone call, right? I've got the rule across every one of my properties that I have of what my threshold is. Now, my threshold to Jono's threshold to anyone else's threshold might be different. It might be $300, it might be $500, it might be $1,000. But what it means is I tell my property manager, under this threshold, I don't care. Don't call me. Just get the work done, because it just means there's small things, and small things happen all the time. A simple tap breaks. There's a leak somewhere. There's some damage somewhere. Those small things happen quite often. And once you get into the investment game, and you might have one property, multiple properties, you could be having multiple phone calls a week for $100 spend or $50 spend. It's just not worth your time. So putting that rule set in there with your property manager saves your time and allows them to get to it straight away.
Absolutely. And I think the other really important element is look after your property manager.
Yeah.
Make sure that you communicate well with them. Make sure you send them their Christmas gifts. You know, Christmas is coming up. Make sure that they get their Christmas gifts. Make sure that it's, you know, you're developing that really strong relationship. So, you know, they are giving you the best opportunity for your asset.
Awesome. Thanks, Jono. And to anyone else, as always, if there's any questions or queries you have about myself with Jono, our details will be in the description. Depends where you're watching or listening. And as always, thanks for coming over to the Daily Nugget. Daily property insights, one topic, 20 minutes or less, 7 days a week. And as always, hope to see you